of Section 20 of the Acts of 2021, allowing public meetings to be conducted remotely so that board and committee members, as well as members of the public, can participate remotely. First order of business is board reorganization. We have to vote in Peter and the chair. So,
I would like to make a motion that the board recommend to the select board that Peter Russell continue his appointment as associate member. I think they might have actually already voted on it, but we still have to formalize our recommendation.
okay. Do I have a second?
Yes, absolutely.
I second that.
Okay, and calling a vote. It's a roll call vote because the member is online, so.
Monroe, aye.
Dak, aye.
Steiger, aye.
Alright, motion so moved. Alright, and now I will hear.
Thank you for your confidence.
Oh, you're so. And then, can I have a motion for electing the chair?
I'd like to make a motion that we have our chair, this Christopher, that he again be the chair for this upcoming year.
Do I hear a second?
I will second that.
Alright, roll call vote.
No discussion.
Oh, discussion? Any discussion? Oh, there's David.
Yeah, I'll accept it.
Thank you. Okay, and then roll call vote.
Monroe, aye.
Steiger,
Dak,
Steiger, aye.
Dak, aye.
Perfect, and the ayes have it.
Alright, well, thank you.
Alright,
So-
meeting is yours, Chair.
Let's go back to our regularly scheduled meeting. So, we are gonna be having a public hearing tonight, but before we get there, do we have any comments from any member of the public on anything that's not on the agenda? Alright, hearing none, we're moving forward into acceptance of the previous minutes. The minutes were put into the drive and made available to all of the board members for review. They're also included in the folder. Would anybody like to make a motion to accept the minutes, and we'll hold them for discussion and corrections?
So moved.
Alright, here in a first, do I have a second?
I will second.
Here in a first and a second, discussion.
They're on both sides. Trying to save paper.
They appear to be in pretty good shape for me. Go through them again. So any additional discussion? Alright, well, calling a vote, starting with Mr. Steiger,
Steiger, aye.
and then in the room,
Dak, aye.
and the chair is aye, the minutes are accepted. Alright, moving further down the list, we have agenda for a different board and committee. We have a public hearing, and this is the continuation of a public hearing that was previously called on, what was the date that we previously called it? We have to state that on the
It
record.
is, going to be May 23rd of 2024.
Okay. And we opened the hearing to continue the hearing to today, because today is the day where the applicant can make it, and also to give the planning board's consultant time to review the application and prepare a report. This public hearing is being called pursuant to MGL Chapter 48, Section 9. The Hubbardston Planning Board is reviewing the application for a special permit for Damon Schmidt and Royal Sun Farms LLC with regards to 69 Gardner Road, Hubbardston, Massachusetts, a commercial marijuana facility. All right, so because we didn't really have any discussion at the previous meeting, we're gonna We're gonna run down essentially the checklist as if we're starting this for the previous time. Let's see, we talked about this, we read the applicable notice, so next on the list is, does the staff have any procedural or deficiencies to report on this? Have all fees been paid and
All fees have been paid, certified mailings went out. Anything that we asked for, he made sure he got it to us, and that is all I have on that. So, all the fees have been paid, and, Kelly made sure that it all went into the correct account, and certified mailings went out, so those procedures have been done completely.
Legal ads.
Legal ads, yes. Twice. In the Gardner News. And I have copies of those if you need to see them. I have the notarized copies, if you need to see them.
excellent, thank you.
Just trying to help.
Thank you.
All right, and noting for the record, the applicant has submitted a very large application in paper form, a copy of which has been distributed to every member of the board, to the consultant, and has also been made available to our adjacent boards and committees in the town.
Adjacent boards and committees, and has been filed in the town clerk's office. That is the town clerk's copy you are holding in your hand, so please make sure I get it back.
Excellent, and was there anything, let me hand you this copy so I have one to write on.
The adjacent copy
was-
was fine.
Was there anything else added to the written record for this?
Not current.
Okay. All right, so materials, so Mr. Schmidt, now's your turn. Let us know what you're looking for and what we can do for you.
All right, hi, thanks for letting me do this remotely as well. Yeah, so basically, we're just doing the same special permit that we did, or very similar, special permit that we did 3 years ago, to grow the recreational marijuana at 69 Gardner Road. So basically, I don't think we're looking to change anything too significant. It's pretty much steady Eddie from where we were in the past. We're going for the same tier level, which is a tier 6 outdoor grow, which is 50,000 square feet. We'll utilize the greenhouse as we've done the last couple of years. So pretty much, everything that we've done the last couple of years, we're gonna continue to do it the same way.
All right, can you walk us through the changes that you're looking for here?
Yeah, I think one of the big changes was, the every 3 years, we'd like not to do this. The other thing is with the freezer trailers, when we originally did the special permit, I don't think we took into account that, we're just not gonna sell all of our product right at the end of the year. So we've had to keep the freezer trailer going, almost the entire year, holding our material as we tried to sell it. So that would, be one of the big things that, we can't really move it off-site that easily. One, if it has material in it, and all of our security systems are actually attached to the trailer. So it's another thing we didn't really think about, because all of our product, has multiple cameras on it. And then there's triggers on all the, trailer doors and motion detectors and all that. It's connected to our, security system. But I think that was pretty much the only, the big changes. Of course, at some point here, we do want to put a building in. So, we'll come back, I guess, and, make an update to the special permit. But I anticipate once we put the building in, that we could definitely move at least one of the trailers off site. And then it just depends on if we're going to try to put a freezer inside the building. I'm not sure if we have enough power for that.
can you let us know if you've received any odor complaints since the last time you were in, and comment on what you believe the success of any mitigation measures you've conducted has been? Sorry, it's late in the day.
Yeah, I mean, last year, we lost quite a bit of the field with the rain. So I think that helped. But, as we said, we were, trying to select some sort of cannabis strains that didn't take, extended period of time to flower, which are generally more of the sativa strains. But, I think we've always had that plan not to grow. We want to take down our plants as soon as possible. So I think we also switched to using a different kind of auto flowering plant. So I think that probably helped as well. We're using the same kinds this year from the same company. So those plants actually get harvested early, so they don't go, late September into October. So I think that helps as well.
Excellent. All right, any questions from the board for the applicant?
I don't have any.
Okay, Francois, questions for the applicant?
Not at this point.
All right, I have one,
May I ask I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, may I ask to be again added to the meeting?
Yes.
I'm only on audio.
No,
Oh, I am again.
Francois.
Thank you. I see it now.
yeah, we have you on the phone and on the video. I do have one additional question for the applicant. Can you tell us about how your water usage has matched up against what your original plan and your original proposal was? That was something we discussed quite a bit at the original application.
Yeah, it really turned out to be, much to do about nothing, I guess. We weren't really sure how much water we would use, going into it. Last year we barely watered. It was so wet. But yeah, no, we kind of overestimated how much we thought we would use. So, I think we, even though we don't really like having a limit, because in Massachusetts you are allowed to pump 100,000 gallons a day. But we really haven't been affected by it. Even the year before when it was, just brutally hot, it was never a concern of ours.
All right, thank you. All right, so if there's no further questions from the board, moving on to Mr. Murray and his report from Places Associates. So Mr. Murray, have you had an opportunity to review the application from the applicant?
Sure. I didn't actually write a report. What I did was draft a decision,
Yep.
and I noted a couple of comments following on the decision. In the documents, you mentioned multiple times replacing a trailer with a building, and one of my comments to the planning board is the planning board can make a determination as part of this permit application that could be considered a minor change, or if the planning board wants to see more information about it, then they could say that is a potential modification of the special permit and deal with it at a following hearing. If you were to make a determination that it's a minor change, then the applicant would have to go through the building permit process with the building inspector and prove compliance to zoning and those kind of things. But you would then lose your ability to review the size, scope, and function inside the building as it relates to the commercial cannabis growing. So those are some options that you have in front of you. Again, I've taken out of the draft special permit the 3-year expiration date, and I've also taken out of the draft special permit anything to do with the construction of the proposed facility. And I did ask, I did ask if annual reports have been submitted, and I believe we have not received annual reports from the applicant. And the original permit, the applicant offered and the board made part of the application, the fact that he would move a trailer. And as he stated, the trailers have remained, so there's a kind of a disconnect between the issuance of the original special permit and what has occurred. And then my only other question is, Mr. Schmidt, I know that you said that your water usage is substantially less than what you estimated. Do you actually have a volume that you maxed out in a day, or do you know what you are using as opposed to?
Yeah, no, I don't. So, we have I believe a 5,000 gallon tank. So, that's constantly full. So I think that helped us, just have, water, on site so that when we did use it, we already had that, filled on any given day. But, we do have a gallon meter. So, we were keeping track of that every day, any day that we did water. But, off the top of my head, I'd say, I couldn't really give a guess, but, maybe we do 2,000 gallons a day, average, I'm not sure.
So you don't you don't empty the tank when you water?
Oh, no, definitely
So
not.
less than 5,000 gallons, that works.
Yeah, no, it, we just overestimated, how much we thought we would use. But like I said, it really depends on if it rains. I mean, last year we barely watered.
Right.
So, I would say last year we probably used, 15 to 20% of what we used the year before. And the only way that I'm kind of coming up with that is, we know how much nutrients we use, and, we maybe used a quarter of what we used the year before. And it's just a function of, when you water, you use it. So,
Right.
yeah, we were shocked. That was a big deal when we did this. But yeah, it turned out to be, nothing.
And then I just have to say that you over-submitted. The amount of information that you submitted was really redundant, but,
Oh, I thought it was everything we submitted
no.
before.
Well, it was everything that was, you could have submitted the end package, but thank you. You overdid, you didn't underdo, so that's always a good thing.
Yeah, Staples loved me. There was a lot of money making those copies.
A couple other questions. 5 to 7 employees, is that the correct number?
Yeah, I mean, right now we've got 2 guys. So it all depends. Like last year, I mean, it was a disaster. We filed to get some farm aid, but apparently they didn't even consider us. So I don't know, we never got anything. But yeah, no, last year was kind of a disaster. But 5 to 7 is a good number. I mean, we'll get maybe some more people during around harvest time that just kind of come in for a couple weeks. But right now we're 2 guys. We'll probably stay that way till the end of July.
Yeah, it says that during harvest, you had only 5 to 7. Do you want to modify that?
It's at any given time. I mean, we were harvesting 7 days a week, so we kind of rotate people. You don't have people working 7 days.
Right.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Murray? Francois, any questions for Mr. Murray?
No, thank you.
All right, so it looks like we have a bit of a punch list here before we have something that is potentially actionable. So I guess the first thing, well, I guess the question is whether we try to, let's not do this yet. Let's stay with the check sheet and keep running down. Is there any public officials, or I guess I'll do it together, or members of the public in the audience that are looking to comment on this application?
No comments.
Okay.
Or
Any-
questions?
Anybody online with any comments or questions? I'm just looking at the list. Okay.
By the way, that was Mike Stahl, 5 Lombard Road. Sorry for omitting my identification.
Oh, thank you very much. We don't have any letters of either support or against that have been submitted to the planning board.
No.
Any additional questions from the staff or from the consultant?
I forgot to mention one thing. We recently were the applicant on behalf of a grower, and the town that we were working in added a special condition that I thought was pretty wise. And it was simply that the applicant must notify the board anytime a permit granted by the Cannabis Control Commission is modified, amended, or revoked. And we'd like to recommend that be added as a special condition.
Yeah, I believe there's probably already an obligation to notify us, but it doesn't seem like it would hurt to add it to the permit, so.
You include complaints and issues with municipal entities, but I don't think you include the CCC, and
Okay.
therefore I don't know that there's a reporting obligation.
Okay, Mr. Schmidt,
Sorry.
Does that pose any kind of problem to you? It seems like it's a
No,
pretty
I
reasonable
just don't
requirement.
understand what you mean by a permit. I mean, they issue licenses, not permits, but I think that's what you're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, if the status of your license was to change, just a requirement within the permit to
I think
notify us.
Anyhow. But, yeah, that's fine.
All right, thank you. All right, so asking the board from a procedural standpoint, I mean, technically, we could close the public hearing and go into deliberations on it. If there's no additional evidence we need other than
You
close
could.
it except for leave it open for the written record.
If no additional new information is anticipated or needed, you can close the public hearing and not take additional information. If you think you need additional information, then you should not close the public hearing.
Yeah.
So what's outstanding?
So outstanding, we have the discussion about the minor change, whether we consider it a minor change for the building, whether we are okay with modifying in relation to the trailer, and the information as to the annual reports.
So the applicant did not in his application state that he would come back for the building, but he did state in his testimony this evening that he is willing to come back and modify the special permit if he chooses to build a building.
Okay.
So he may have solved that problem for you.
Mr. Schmidt, where do you stand with that? Would you be okay with just leaving that off and just coming back for
Yeah.
a minor?
I mean, I think when we do it, you know, we're gonna basically where the security trailers are, where the security trailer and the other trailer are, you know, it makes sense just to go right there. You know, we've already put, you know, a couple feet of crushed stone there, so, you know, the foundation is kind of already there, so, yeah, we can just come back, whatever easier for you guys, whatever you wanna do.
Yeah, given the tight timeline that you're on, I think keeping this as simple as possible without changing stuff is probably the right answer here, so.
Yeah, that's,
Mr. Chair,
Yep. Francois?
yeah, I would like to make sure that that is something that is kept in, primarily because of the fact that this plot has both residential and commercial components to this here.
Okay.
I think it makes a lot of sense for us to have a clear understanding where this building is gonna be and kind of an impact that it has, potentially.
Okay, so we're at leaving it status as it is, and the applicant will come back when he's ready for that to get a determination on if it's a minor change at the time. The next question on the punch list is the trailer. Now, trying to go back in the Wayback Machine, I'm trying to think in my mind why we had a specific requirement for the trailer. I think we were concerned about reefer noise,
Right.
Yeah.
which is a weird way to word that, but honestly, why would somebody be running the refrigeration unit on the trailer if there isn't actively product in it?
Well, as Mr. Schmidt has said, he anticipated that he would be selling his product at the end of the season and he wouldn't need the trailer and the trailer could leave because he wouldn't need it. But as he testified tonight, he said that that is not how it's actually happening. So he's keeping the trailer and product on site much longer than he anticipated. And you haven't received, to the best of my knowledge, you haven't received noise, odor, or
I looked.
other complaints regarding the trailer.
And I spoke to the building commissioner as well to see, and he said no,
And
he
that-
hasn't received any complaints about the hum.
And that was
And
the
just speak up for the record,
applicant's
so
idea.
I didn't hear you.
Sorry, Francois, if you couldn't hear me, I talked to the building commissioner and there haven't been any complaints about noise or I think it's a constant hum of the refrigeration unit. And I looked in Mallory's records to make sure, cause she had the complaint filed together and there was nothing in there as well.
Okay.
And that was something that Mr. Schmidt made an offer to the board to remove the trailer. It was not a requirement, as I recall, it was not a requirement of the board at the time.
Does any member of the board have any objection to making that change?
No. I do not.
No,
Excellent. All right, so looks like we don't have a problem with that change. As far as the annual reports, what was the specific requirement for the annual reports?
Pretty sure it's still here.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was just to give us essentially the same reports that
It's,
the CCC got.
Yeah, page 9 of 16. On the 1 year anniversary of the issuance date of the permit holder shall provide the planning board a written report of the status of the project, including site-related maintenance that occurred, photographs of the site and access. Yearly report shall continue as long as the operation is conducted. And the intent, of course, this was new to Hubbardston, so this was an attempt by, my interpretation is this was an attempt by the planning board to monitor the project without hiring staff or encumbering the building commissioner to monitor the project.
Mr. Schmidt, what is your annual reporting requirement for the Cannabis Control Commission?
So every year, we, have to do a renewal. And then, it's basically, we just update our, Secretary of State good standing, unemployment good standing, the finance one, so the tax people, mass tax good standing. So we gotta send in, 3 certificates of good standing. And then if there was any changes, we just update them. And then basically, it's, we update them on our diversity plan and our positive impact plan. So it's positive impact plan, diversity plan, and then, just making sure our businesses are registered properly.
Because ultimately to think out loud here, what I'm thinking out loud about is trying to find an easy way to comply with something that you may essentially have already, because it seems like these are records that you should be having, that somebody must be already asking you for.
I guess the question is, does the planning board need an update?
I mean, that's also a good question to start with, too. throwing it to the board, what's your thoughts on that? I guess there's the threshold question on whether or not we feel like we need an annual
And
report
who
at
will
this point.
report it, and review it?
Yeah, and then who will review it?
And what impact does our review have, if any?
Yeah, not much of one.
You have a building commissioner, so you have a stronger enforcement than you did, I think, when you issued this permit.
Yeah, that's a big change. Would anybody on the board, object to removing the annual reporting requirement?
I would not.
I do not have an objection so long as he's reporting to the state as he outlined.
That's
Well, I mean, from my perspective, are there portions of that report that can potentially be redacted because they're not necessary for us and can be sent to us without therefore encumbering the applicant? I still think there's a value primarily from a due diligence perspective and from our point of view in terms of the citizenry of the town, making sure that we are also able to report back to them that we're keeping an eye on something that the town has had a critical eye on. Especially now, since we have never had a report in the past, and this is still kind of in an expansion phase.
Mr. Schmidt, is there an operations section that would be perhaps easy for you to copy us in on?
I mean, I'll give you guys any reports you want. I just kind of need some more guidance on what you're actually looking for.
The reason I
Yeah,
ask is because we have the thinnest of special permit quorums tonight, because we have 2 members who could not make it, so we're gonna have to have a unanimous vote on this. So,
All right.
that's why I bring it up. So if there is an easy way for us to all be in agreement, that is the optimal solution for everybody.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
does our other special permit in the same industry have reporting requirements, and if so,
They do.
have we been receiving reports from them? And is there a format that could be replicated perhaps? If so, I'm just throwing out a.
That's a good thought.
1 second, let me look.
Yes, Bowie has been submitting reports.
He has.
Is it the same
He
language?
did not give me one for 2024 because he was coming to the board for his renewal, so I didn't get one for 2024, but I
And
knew
his-
why. He did submit a report to Mark. Let me see if I can pull it up, and then that way we can take a look and see what it is. Give me 1 second, so sorry.
And his renewed permit contains the report requirement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's very important that we remain consistent between the 2 permits that have similar industry.
right.
Yeah. Granted within a
Yep.
month of each other, so.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman, through the
Yes.
chair to Mr. Murray, is our non-reporting, I'm sorry, I don't have the active knowledge. Is there a penalty of some sort for non-reporting?
It's whatever the board determines because it's non-compliance with the original special permit.
Okay, so, non-compliance,
Basically what strains
but
they're
it's not
growing.
an immediate, we'd have to decide on what.
You'd have to debate it, yep.
Okay.
He gave everything to Mark.
I'd like to go back to my comment earlier and agree with Francois that we maintain some sort of reporting requirements similar to what we get from Paper Crane.
Yeah, what we had received for the applicant's benefit, what we had received from Paper Crane was essentially just a statement of no substantial changes, and then just a short list of strains and cultivation, and that was it.
And dates of when they
Yep.
were when they were
I think I
harvesting.
had sent in our strains last year. And we did send in some drone shots. Remember the drone shots? I don't know if Bill remembers those great pictures.
I do.
I do remember talking about wanting them. What's the number in the draft special permit of the report?
Page 9 of 16, number 7.
9 of 16, number 7.
Or at least the the draft that I have here.
Yeah,
I
so,
didn't.
so specifically what the permit says, and this is in the one that we just granted a month ago. On the 1-year anniversary of the issuance date of this permit, the permit holder shall provide the planning board a written report of the status and of the project, including site-related maintenance that has occurred, photographs of the site and access. Yearly reports should continue as long as the operation is conducted.
It's not very burdensome.
Yeah, that's not super burdensome. And to the applicant's benefit, we haven't had anybody in the office until now to follow up with it. So there were a couple of years there where they could have been submitted and they would have just gone to file. To the applicant's point, we did receive information when we were talking during the odor that would have been responsive to that item. So, I believe it's a fair statement that although there may have been some reports missed, that the applicant has submitted some reports. Okay. So, I guess for the sake of consistency, and because it doesn't seem particularly onerous to the applicant, would anybody, have any opposition to leaving that in there?
Sorry, would you kindly repeat that again?
Would
Like
anybody
a-
have any opposition to leaving in the reporting requirement?
No.
Okay,
No,
doesn't seem like there's a
reporting requirement
consistency.
should be there.
Alright. And now the idea, the last thing on the table, as a discussion point was the idea of the special condition if there was a change of license status with the CCC. Did we put that in the one for, we didn't?
No, it was a new condition that one of my clients got on his special permit. And we said, that's a good idea.
It is a good idea. We did just grant one without it. What's the thoughts and feelings of the board on that?
I think it's a good idea, but if we didn't do it for the other, just that consistency thing. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a new idea. It's a
Yeah.
new idea, and it's a good idea,
Thank you.
and I think that, we need to be made aware, and then the state has no obligation to notify us
Yeah.
if there's a permit change, so let's put it on him and notify us of any changes, and I think it's a good idea.
So, Mr.
I
Schmidt,
think
you,
it's, I also don't think I don't think it is, too burdensome on the applicant.
okay, and Mr. Schmidt, you had said earlier that you don't think it would be too burdensome to have.
It's
just-
fine.
Okay. All right, so yeah, I guess we're looking at adding that then. All right, so does anybody have anything where they believe we may need to collect additional evidence in order to make a decision on the special permit? Because once the public hearing is closed, we can't accept additional evidence for the purpose of deciding on the permit.
Can we go back to the trailer building
Yep.
question and whether or not that's how we left that?
Absolutely. So,
Please.
my recollection of how we were gonna leave that is that, we were going to remove the trailer timing language. And as far as the building, we were gonna stay silent as to the building, and the applicant would need to come back to us for a minor change determination in the future.
I was going to put that no new building is issued as part of this permit and not stay silent.
Okay, that's,
Yeah, I think we should have some sort of review of whatever building gets put in there.
okay, well, and that would be a decision for us to make down the road too, so, okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can always change if he submits something to you and it's a building that follows the footprint of the trailer and you don't think it's a big change, you can say that's minor.
Okay.
It doesn't box you in now.
Okay.
So, is there any other additional evidence that members of the board believe we're gonna need to make a decision? All right, well, and the alternate is in play for this because the alternate is needed for a quorum. Would any member of the board like to make a motion to close the public hearing?
I make that motion.
Hearing a first, do we have a second?
I will
Second it.
Hearing a first and a second, any discussion on closing the public hearing? Calling a vote, and it's a roll call vote because we have a member online, Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Mr. Russell,
Russell, aye.
Ms. Dack,
Dak, aye.
and the chair is aye. The public hearing is closed. We're back in the regular session, and we're now able to deliberate. So I guess the question here from a deliberation standpoint is, what's the date of the expiration of the current permit?
28th,
Oh, 8 days.
8 days.
Okay,
June 28th?
I mean, no minute like the last minute.
Well, we can ask the applicant for an extension. if
Yeah.
it, Because if I may,
Yep. you
what
bet.
I'd like to suggest to the board is, so I've given you a draft decision, but there are a lot of empty holes and there are a few questions. And there's a lot of information that I can remove from this document. And rather than the board going through line by line of the draft, what I'd like to propose is that I clean this up and get you and the applicant a much cleaner version that's gonna be much easier to read and comment and then vote on.
Yeah.
Some of the, you can, file an extension with the town clerk for his while we deliberate and get a cleaner version.
Okay, so there is
Yep.
an avenue for.
There is an avenue. Mel and I talked about it, this afternoon. There is an avenue he can request, file with the town clerk an extension.
Correct.
And that's what I
He
would.
can grant the planning board an extension in
Extension.
your time to act, and the planning board can accept it. You must do that by a vote. And it must be offered by the applicant, or
Where-
you can ask for it.
We're within our shot clock deadline. It's the original special permit that expires on the 28th.
What's the effect of the special permit expiring?
Well, that's what I'm asking. Does that matter? I think we should have a clean special permit to vote on, as long as we're not prejudicing the applicant, and we should just do that at our next meeting, unless the board feels differently about that.
And so,
Although our next scheduled meeting would be,
So there's a problem with the next scheduled meeting, it would be
The
the
third.
third, but the town offices are closing at noon on the third.
yeah, you don't want me down there. What I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, is that you are the special permit granting authority, and inasmuch as, you are the special permit granting authority, you could probably grant the applicant an extension to his current special permit until a time and date certain where you will issue your revised special permit. Don't really know how that works, but if
Magic.
nobody objects,
Check.
so the third,
The third would be our next meeting.
because we need to make sure we get a special permit quorum, so.
Yes, and I doubt a lot of people are gonna be around. Erica's shaking her head at me.
well, the only people entitled to sit are the people that are present, unless they,
Watch the video and sign a written vote statement.
right?
Yeah,
So the next meeting would be the 18th after the 4th.
The 18th.
so July 18th,
Yeah, unless we were to schedule a meeting not at a regular time.
which we can do.
Or we can go through it tonight.
I can go print it out.
I would like to suggest, I mean, and if it's okay with the chair, I mean, we have July, I know has 5 Wednesdays, right? And then we could one alternative is to meet on the 10th instead of the 3rd. And then the second meeting, we could have that on the 25th.
Push it back in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Could everybody here make it on the 10th?
Yes.
July 10th?
So I'd like to suggest that we do that. Have the special permit potentially ready then, not potentially, have it ready by that date so that it can be read
All right, we're
and
checking,
can be voted on.
we're checking calendars around the room.
Okay, dander, town calendar.
Does the 10th work for you, Mr. Schmidt?
Sure.
6:30?
So point of information to the chair, I mean, we've been talking about this here, but my understanding is this has to be is this have to be requested by the applicant
Well,
to get that?
I misunderstood. I thought that the clock for this application expired on the 28th. So no, because we have 65 days in which to hold a public hearing and 90 days in which to render a decision. So there's no clock pressing on this application to the board.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
The question is, the original special permit expires June 28th of this month, June 28th. So we don't want him to be considered with, not acting within the confines of the bylaw. So I've suggested that the planning board grant the applicant an extension of his original permit. And I would suggest you go 10 days past July 10th to allow the drafting and then the filing with the town clerk. So the planning board grant a temporary extension of the original permit to July 17th.
And Mr. Murray, what I'm actually suggesting here is that request for that extension must come from the applicant. It is,
Yes.
the burden is
Yeah,
on
that-
them,
that's
right?
good.
That's fair.
Fair.
Mr. Schmidt, would you like to request an administrative extension of your application, or excuse me, of your special permit until the 17th?
Yeah, can I please have a,
Yes, it's good.
So moved.
or July 7th?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that this is on record, that this is not
Yeah.
something that the board
Yes.
is doing
Yeah,
Yes.
Good
as a
point.
favor, but after request.
yep.
It'll be
All
in the
right,
minutes.
would somebody on the board like to make a motion to that effect? And it is a special permit matter, so all members are in play, and it requires a supermajority vote.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All right, calling a vote, and it is a roll call vote. Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Ms. Stack,
Aye.
Mr. Russell,
Russell, aye.
and the chair is aye. So the motion passes, so.
That needs to be filed with the town clerk,
Yes.
and a copy needs to go to the building commissioner.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. I'll copy you in on the emails,
Perfect.
Excellent, thank you.
gentlemen.
All right, so we'll have our regular meeting on the 17th, and that's when we'll.
Tenth.
We'll-
The 10th.
The 10th, on the 10th, excuse me, we'll have our regular meeting on the 10th, and then that's when we'll actually put the permit on the table for a vote.
Did you wanna do the 25th as well, like Francois suggested?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Do that here first.
Yep. All right, so that concludes that matter for the day.
Thank you, Damon.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you for your help on that, Mr. Murray.
All right, thank you. Happy July 4th.
Yeah, you too.
The strawberries are in my garden and there's no sugar.
All right, so moving forward on the agenda, under
Okay.
new business, we have administrative rules. And at the last meeting, I presented administrative rule number 1, which hopefully will be the first of a recodification of our administrative rules, a smattering of which are currently on our website in a not necessarily easy to follow way. So what I am proposing that we do as board is that we have a vote to accept this administrative rule that's been proposed. And we've also been following this administrative rule informally for our last few public hearings to kind of test drive it and see how it works in terms of keeping a nice, orderly, smooth hearing. The other purpose of it is that way when folks come in, we can have a QR code or we can have a copy of it. Everybody has an understanding on how public hearings work, because as a practical matter, all of this is already in Robert's Rules of Order or as a matter of law, but it's very difficult to be like, Mr. Joe Public, you need to go read 200 pages of source material to understand everything you know in order to comport yourself appropriately at this hearing. So this takes all of that and condenses it down into a nice simple form so that it should be digestible for future us's and for members of the public in terms of knowing what happens at a public hearing and how folks should behave in the public hearing and when the appropriate opportunities to speak are.
The other idea was to have them printed out and laminated, and I can pass them out at meetings as well for those who are not so digitally inclined. If
Yep.
that would be okay with the board.
So this is the second night bringing it up in front of the board, and we'll pause for a moment so everybody can kind of refresh themselves on it. And with that said, would anybody?
You did say you wanted to table it to get a full vote from the board, but
Yeah, but I already tabled it for a meeting,
I
so.
know, so.
And we also have the ability to modify this as it's something that we established with a vote, so. I'll wait another minute, and then if anybody would like to make a motion, I'd be happy to entertain it.
Mr. Chair, I have a question. Not to indicate my willingness to vote in favor or against this, and I don't have a vote, but I think at the last meeting, you mentioned that it was very important that the entire board vote on this. I'm curious if that's still your desire.
It is important, but given the circumstances, I can only work with what I got.
The other question I would just compliment this here, has this document elicited any kind of feedback from those members of the board who could not attend tonight? And I absolutely understand the circumstances that they are either working under or the pressures that they have in their personal lives that prevented them from joining tonight. But I'd like to understand if any of them have provided at least any feedback to you, and you don't necessarily have to share that with us, but
I've not received any. We can certainly make a more specific call for feedback and then put this first on our agenda for the 10th. I don't know that creates much harm. At that meeting, I will also hopefully be introducing Administrative Rule Number 2, which will be an outline for estimating initial deposits for consulting fees to finally put to bed what's been apparently a confusing issue for a lot of applicants over the years.
Sure. If I may be so bold and propose that you do take the action of encouraging our two absent members of the board tonight to provide any kind of feedback. And if they don't by the next meeting, at that point in time, we definitely have to take an action on this here by members of the board who are then present.
Okay. All right, so I'll table that until the 10th, and
Thank you.
we'll put it on our agenda right after public comment, or excuse me, right after minute acceptance.
Thank you.
Yep. All right, so moving down the agenda, we have some administrative matters, which is vote to approve some outstanding invoices.
Yes, Kelly, I'm with the new 2026 fiscal year starting in 2 weeks. July 1st is in 2 weeks? 2 weeks?
July 1st.
She was wondering if it would be easier for the board to approve me to pay invoices as they come, and then come to the board and say, these are the invoices that we received, this is how we paid, and this is the date they were paid. Just so that bills are being paid on time.
I don't have a specific opposition to bills being paid on time, but there was a vote for a specific process at one of Mark's last meetings. So I think we need to go and we need to look and remember what that was before we go to a different process.
Okay, it was proposed to me by the town accountant, so
Yeah, no, it doesn't not make sense. All right, with that said, we still have, we have 3 invoices that are on the table for approval. 2 to Places Associates. So the first invoice, which is number 549105, is in the drive and available to the board for review. Is it also in the binder?
it is also in the binder.
So it's also in the binder.
And they're in order.
Yep, so we're looking at 549105. And would somebody like to make a motion for the payment of invoice 549105 in the amount of $1,282.50 to Places Associates?
I'd like to make that motion that we pay that invoice. What?
Here in a
I'm
first?
sorry, don't. 5491.05, I believe, you said, right?
Yes.
Yep,
In the amount of $1,282.50.
yep, hearing that motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the invoice? Calling a vote, Mr. Steiger,
Steiger, aye.
Ms. Dack,
Dak, aye.
and the chair is aye, the invoice is approved. The next invoice we have on the table is, I don't see the number on it, but it is for $441 to Places Associates. Oh, it's 5664.01. And this is for work related to the Verizon cell tower additions. And we had money on account to pay this one,
Yes,
correct?
Vertex paid their, not Vertex, Schatz, Schwartz, Fenton, such a fun one to say.
At Sports and Fenton, right?
Yeah, Schatz, Schwartz, and Fenton, paid their $2,000 and the consultant fees was eating up that amount.
Okay. Alright, and would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make that motion. That is to approve the invoice 5664.01, Places Associates, in the amount of $441, correct?
Yes.
Here in a first, do we have a second?
I will second.
Any discussion? Calling a vote, Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Ms. Dack,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. One final invoice for Local IQ, which is for advertising. Did we receive deposits for the purpose of
Yes.
paying this?
These are from our scenic road applications, both applicants paid on time, it went into the revolving account, and it'll come back out of the revolving account.
Excellent. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve the invoice?
Point of information,
Yep.
point of information to the clerk. I don't see that invoice on our, in our folder. Was that in the prior meeting
That
folder?
one may have not made it into the meeting folder because I was still waiting. Their version has it written on in hand. Local IQ put it in for Concom, not for planning board, even though I gave them our planning board account number. It's fun to fight with them.
We're more than happy to
let me
have
drop
Concom
it
pay
in
for it, right?
you. What? What did you say? They are.
I said we're happy to have Concom pay for it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, no, I will send in the notice via email with the account number first and in the, subject line, and they'll still put it under town clerk, Concom, town administrator. It'll just,
Okay.
it never goes.
And again, what is the total amount there?
The total amount is paid with cash and check, which we will pay with check. It is $194.39.
Well, I think we better pay it because otherwise Concom is gonna go bankrupt.
Alright, so do we have a motion to approve invoice 644-0598 in the amount of $194.39?
I'll make that motion.
You're in a first.
I
and a
second
second. You're in a first and a second. Any discussion? Calling a vote, Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Ms. Stack,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. The
Concom is saved.
They're saved.
Alright, so moving down the list.
But first, you must sign your life away.
Oh, well, yeah. Moving down the list, we have matters not reasonably anticipated by chair. The first matter not being reasonably anticipated by chair is, I got elected vice chair of MRPC, which was kind of unexpected. Yeah, so we'll see. I'm on the executive committee, again, and, who knows? Moving on from there, we also.
Governor.
Yeah.
Continue.
Moving on from there, at our next meeting, we need to re-vote and confirm all of the various appointments to things that we send planning board members to, because there's planning board members that get sent as representatives to a lot of things.
Yeah.
So we'll need to reestablish at the next meeting. I think the select board, who actually has the appointing authority over most of those things, actually made preemptive votes on them like a month ago. I don't know. We'll still do our confirmatory vote, and the select board will end up correcting to whatever we did, because that's just how it's done by practice. Other than that, I don't really, there isn't yet an update on any of the grants that we've applied for.
September. They said September. We should hear back.
Yeah, there are some Mass Trail grants and such. We have been looking around to try to get some additional planning support if we don't get those grants, in case we get any large projects or anything like that, just so we can be prepared. We're still working on that. It's pretty early on. Other than that, that's it, you know, it's early summer. It's nice for it to finally be quiet after a few busy months.
Why would you say that? Knock on wood, please. Knock on wood,
People are
please.
gonna go on vacation, it'll be fine. Anybody else have any announcements for the board or any public comment? All right, well, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All right, here in the first, do we have a second?
I second that motion.
Non-debatable, calling a vote. Mr. Steiger,
Aye.
Ms. Stack,
Aye.
and the chair is aye. We are adjourned at 7:41 PM.